I chose Division III baseball over Division I baseball. And when I say that, you probably think, Nate, that's so stupid. But there was a deeper problem in my psychology that made me think D3 baseball was the better choice. All right, so let's rewind all the way back to my junior year of high school. So during 2020, we went through something called COVID. And you know how your junior year is supposed to be the most highly touted year in your high school development. This is when you start going to those showcases, you start going to camps, you start your email outreach, all of that stuff. So of course, when I was hitting my recruiting high, COVID came right around the corner and pretty much smashed everything into pieces. With that being said, I was pretty behind in my recruitment. Yeah, I was still able to do outreach, but showcases were limited, camps were limited, really anything in person, you just really didn't have that much access to. So I had pretty limited exposure. However, I was still able to stand out pretty well with my skills. I mean, I had pretty good metrics. I had a 95 plus EV, I threw 93 from the outfield. I ran about a 7-second flat 60-yard dash time, and I was a pretty good athlete. And that did stand out at the showcases after COVID. I had looks from every single level. There was a particular D1 school that I was pretty close with, that I was heavily considering. D2 school, I had a lot of D3 schools, and of course JUCO and NAIA were also on the table for me. And I easily could have went after these D1 and these D2 schools with much more intent. But I actually didn't on purpose, and I went after the D3 schools and the JUCO schools. So let me take you back to how I actually played the game of baseball, because this is gonna relate to my whole recruitment cycle. I was always the kind of player who didn't want the glory. He didn't want to be the guy who, hit the game-winning run. He didn't want to even be the pitcher because he had the spotlight on him. He didn't want the attention at all. And he felt much better just going 1 for 3, hitting an RBI, rather than going 5 for 5 in one game and sealing the dub for his team. It sounds really backwards, but I had a rationale for this way of thinking. The rationale was very simple. Nate, if you succeed, the next time, everyone else around you is going to expect you to do the same thing. And if you fail, in their eyes, you are an even bigger failure than if you just didn't succeed at all in the first place. Meaning, if I went 5 for 5 one game, and then I went 0 for 5 for the next game, I would feel like a fraud because I made everybody think that I should have gone 5 for 5. But I would actually rather just go 0 for 5 in both games and feel like I belonged. It's a very, very, very weird way to think, but it was how I was hardwired for the game. Despite that, I worked extremely hard on my physical capabilities. And I was definitely above average when it came to my physical capabilities. But that mentality is where I lacked severely, as you could probably imagine. And this stuck through my recruitment cycle, it stuck through my showcases, through my camps, during my exposure. Like when I would go to showcases, just a small example of this, I would be the guy who, he wouldn't go first during the drills. Like when they would say, all infielders go to shortstop, I would be the guy who would sneak into the middle or even the back. Like I wouldn't want to be the guy first because I didn't want the attention, I didn't want the spotlight. Because what if I'm the first guy in that drill to fail and everyone looks at him? Really messed up. So I held myself back during my recruitment cycle in the same exact way. When I got attention from D1 coaches, I thought, man, they're only reaching out because they saw a version of me that's not real. Maybe they saw some sort of highlight. Maybe they came to watch me play and that was the one game in like a 3-week stretch where I actually played well. I thought there's no way they actually want me. They have to have some kind of rationale behind wanting me that was rooted in some fiction. It's just not true. And with the D3 schools, I feel like I actually belong a little bit more because I could put myself down to that level. And when I put myself down to that level, the expectations came with it. Because if I go to a D1 program and I end up sitting the bench, I end up not playing for all 4 years, or even worse, I transfer after my freshman year, how are people going to look at me then? Oh, Nate, you thought you were so good, and then you end up going to a D1 program and you absolutely blow it. Rather than just going to a D3 school that nobody even knows, end up playing there and everything's fine. It wasn't realistic, and what I told myself it was the humble option. I definitely thought at that time, at least consciously in the forefront of my mind, that it was realistic, but I always had an inkling. I always knew in my subconscious, the back part of my brain, that I was certainly settling in this game and I was selling myself terribly short with the skills that I had. I could tell during like micro moments, like with the D1 schools, even the D2 schools, I would leave their emails on red. I would leave their text messages on read, and then I would, hit them back up later when I had an excuse as to why I didn't respond. Or I thought if I left them on read for a certain amount of time and then reached back out, that they would move on. So it wasn't my fault and I wouldn't expose myself for not going to that school. I pinned it on them, right? Or when I would go to these showcases and I'd be the next guy up in line for, let's say, our ground balls, and I would just feel this sensation in my body it was nerves, but it was doubt. I would legitimately tell myself in that line, Nate, you're going to be the first one to fail here. And when you do, the 30 guys behind you are all going to be laughing. They're all going to be looking at you like you're some sort of fraud for even going to this showcase, man. And worse yet, the people that are running the showcase, the coaches, everyone's going to think you are some joke. So I held my baseball career in a tightly clenched fist, meaning everything I did had maximum amounts of tension and pressure. And I would clasp this idea of failing so much that my body had no other choice but to follow suit. So I would either fail because all I would do is think about failing, or I would protect myself to some insane degree where failing is impossible. And that's exactly what happened in my college career, in my recruitment process. I protected my future so much because I was so afraid of being a fraud. I ended up just going to D3 baseball. Yeah, very, very messed up rationale. And if you can relate to that, dude, please live up to your potential. Please do me a favor and treat yourself correctly, because when you do that to yourself, it's not only a disservice, but it's really cruel. And I was being extremely cruel to myself. I would never put that kind of pressure on a teammate or anybody else at the showcase. Why would I do it to myself? And ultimately, that's what led me to a really unsuccessful college career. And it's really funny how this whole thing panned out. It's almost a joke, the fact that I can look back on this now and say these things. Yeah, I get to D3 baseball, right? So I get to the place, it's Anderson University, Indiana, which, by the way, I always shit on them, at least in my content. I really don't mean to shit on Anderson University. I love the school. I actually love the coaches as much as I talk about the coaches too. But the fact of the matter is, I settled going to play D3 baseball. So it's nothing to do with them. It's actually all to do with me. So I end up getting to Anderson University my freshman year, and we start with a fall series, right? We start with the fall season. So I actually do phenomenal. My first fall scrimmage at Anderson, I believe I was 4 for 4, or I was 3 for 3 with a walk. Either way, I hit 1,000 that series with like a double. Like I did really well, right? And we play the next game, and I go like 2 for 3 or 3 for 3 again. I'm batting like damn near 800 to 1,000, I think, in the first couple games, and we got a lot of ABs. Like these were full games and everything like that. And I just remember thinking, like, Nate, this feels amazing. Like this feels really good to play well. But there's also that other side of me that's saying, you're definitely a fraud. Like there's no way you belong hitting 1,000 even at the D3 level, right? So the lesson to that was my environment didn't change how I thought of myself or what I deserved. This would have happened at JUCO. This would have happened at NAIA, D3, D2, D1. Really didn't matter because the external was in no way, shape, or form what was going to change inside, the internal, as much as I thought it would, right? Again, I thought going to D1, you're going to be a fraud, right? And I thought going to D3 would eliminate that worry, but that's just not the case because there's an issue internally with myself that no location, no school is going to fix, right? So I get to Anderson, I'm doing extremely well. I think I'm a fraud, but it also feels great. And I even remember my coach like coming up to me and he was like, "Hey man, like this was like a couple weeks into the fall and I was killing it." He was like, "Nate man, like is this a fluke?" By the way, kind of insane thing for a coach to tell his freshmen, but he said it anyways. And I said, "No, it's not a fluke." But I was lying my ass off. Like I said it with a straight face. I looked him in the eyes and I said it, but in the back of my head, right in that moment, I said, "Yeah, this is definitely a fluke," right? So I get through the fall. I bat like 450. I think I hit like 450 in the fall. I did really well. Realistically, I started getting pretty confident at this point, thinking, hey, the college level ain't shit. Like, I'm out here hitting better than like some of the seniors. Like, I'm doing really well. I'm going to play this season, right? And every time I would get a thought like that, I would also get the other half of the coin, which is, hey, I'm going to play this season because I'm doing great. But once I do play this season, all the pressure's on. And I'm going to end up choking. So I carried that vibe all the way through the fall into the spring. So throughout the whole winter with training with our team, practicing, just keep in mind, I'm coming off a great fall, but I'm confident. I'm confident for my physical abilities and what I did in that fall, almost like consciously. But just remember, subconsciously in the back of my head, I'm always thinking this: when you get your opportunity in the spring, you're going to fail. You're going to fail because you can't handle the pressure. So we get to spring ball that freshman year, and I'm a game one starter. We played in Sewanee, Tennessee. It was about 31 degrees with snow. So this was not a good environment to play. And obviously I'm a freshman, and it's my first game collegiately, and I'm starting at second. So game goes on. I take pregame BP and I break my bat. Okay, it's also, again, super cold. I break my bat. I start freaking the fuck out. Like, oh no, of course this is gonna happen. I'm gonna fail. This is gonna be terrible. I'm basically just predicting my future. Okay, I actually broke my bat pregame, and then I used my teammate's bat in my first AB, and then I broke it. So I broke 2 bats in my first collegiate start as a freshman in college, and I also got the old hat trick. So first AB, I remember this so vividly. I think I'm like full count, actually. I think I'm full count. Dude throws a full count breaking ball. There's a guy on third, and this guy hangs it bad. He hangs a breaker. And I remember before I swung, I was like, oh, I'm going to crush this thing. Like, this thing was hanging. And I swing right through it. And walking back to the dugout there, I was like, of course this happened. Of course this happened. You are a fraud. You're a fake. Wouldn't you know? I mean, I keep that attitude the rest of the game, 2 more Ks. And I visibly showed this attitude, by the way. Like, would constantly demean myself, talk down on myself to the other teammates. Like, who wants to hear that shit? To my other teammates, I'm talking bad about myself. And I remember our team captain, who took me under his wing, for my college career, honestly, he was always there for me. And he was trying to reel me back in. And we had a very close moment in that game. He grabbed me by my shoulders and he was like, dude, you're not bad at baseball. He was really talking into me. And I understood what he meant, but I couldn't feel what he meant. So obviously I got benched after that game, and I didn't start again for that freshman year. And I think I had some opportunities to play later in the season, and I just choked. I didn't do super well in that, just because I kept that whole fraud narrative, especially after my hat trick. I kept that narrative up as well. So sophomore year comes around, I start playing a little bit more, and I actually had a good sophomore year. I hit well, I stole bases, I got a lot quicker, I built my physicality that offseason, and I feel like I got a little bit more mature, and I was building more awareness, in which you're kind of seeing right now, but I definitely wasn't at the point that I'm at right now. So didn't play a ton, but I played a lot better, right? Played a lot better. Junior year comes around, we're gearing up, everyone's hyping me up. My coach is like, you're the most improved player over the fall and the winter. So springtime comes around, and again, I'm starting in that first series. Cool. Okay. Now at this point, I'm thinking, Nate, you're a lot more mature. You've gotten better at the game. You've improved, but you cannot recreate what happened your freshman year. Still holding on to this 2 years later, you can't do that. So I'm holding on to this. I'm still super tense. Like, we're also facing a pretty good pitcher this day. First AB, I K up on a breaking ball. And I'm like, no, I start spiraling immediately. As you could probably imagine, I start spiraling immediately. But then I kind of get myself grounded, and I'm like, okay, I start breathing a little bit. I'm ready to go. So the next AB comes around. I actually piece the ball up the middle. There's a guy on first, shortstop's faded over towards the middle. He makes a diving play, like fucking 360, tosses my ass out. First baseman makes an incredible pick. I'm like, okay, well, at least I pieced up the ball, right? Third AB comes around and hit like a weak flare to the right side. So not a great outing, but I thought at that point, hey, it's better. And I was going to start the next game too at third base. I actually DH'd that first game. Game two, I'm starting to third base, and we're warming up pregame. We're on the football field. We're throwing long toss. Boom, one throw, tear my UCL, done for the season. I can't throw. I end up pinch running the rest of the year, and we prolonged my surgery for like 4 months just because of insurance. The athletic trainers there were terrible. So I pinch run the whole year on a torn UCL, which I don't know if you guys ever pinch run on a torn UCL. That shit hurts. Because when you slide, I mean, the right arm is the arm that I put back when I slide. So it would consistently kind of rattle that UCL, and I didn't have one. It was completely torn. So I'd have bones kind of rubbing against each other. Really did not feel good. But that's kind of beside the point. I come back my senior year throughout a really tough winter. It was really hard to rehab for my winter, but I came back early spring, like preseason. I start hitting with the team, and my arm fucking balloons up. It's like 3 times the size of what it normally is. I'm like, okay, we're just going to kind of treat this like, take some rest, get back into the swing of things, literally. So then I'm out there for a scrimmage with my team for the early spring. One throw to my first baseman, actually not even long toss, probably 80 feet. Boom, UCL ruptures again. And at that point, I'm like, yeah, this thing's over. So I get through, two terrible years of my college, let's be honest. My junior and senior year with no UCL, I didn't play, I just pinch ran. That's pretty much all I did. Couldn't throw, could barely hit, really couldn't hit worth a darn because it would just balloon up. And yeah, I pretty much retired my baseball career at that point. Sucks, really sucks, to be honest, looking back at it. Because I definitely had the skills and the potential, and I definitely had the wherewithal. I just didn't unlock it or that awareness at all. So why do I tell you this story? If anything, it's a cautionary tale. I want to share this cautionary tale because this all stemmed from one problem. So the UCL, failing my freshman year, having a bad recruitment cycle, this all stemmed from one issue internally, and it's that I didn't feel like I belonged in the elite category. It had nothing to do with what I could actually provide on the field. It was all an identity. And the identity that I had was I am a fraud. And when you think like that, you are sealing your fate. You are sealing your destiny in this game, and you will simply not reach your potential. So I want to tell you this as a cautionary story, because if you feel the same way, it may not feel like at this very moment that it is detrimental to your career. But if my story teaches you anything, it is how this domino effect can ruin your baseball career. This mindset ruined my exposure because I was too scared to get exposed. This mindset ruined my exposure. It ruined my recruitment. It ruined my college career. It ruined my arm. That stems from one domino. And at the end of the day, the reason I'm in the position I'm in right now is because I sat back with all of that, okay? I looked at that whole situation, and I was able to develop awareness. I was able to write about my experiences. I was able to think with myself about these experiences and come up with a way to actually pass on what I've learned to the next generation of athletes. And that's what I'm doing exactly in this video. So yeah, it definitely sucked, but look at me now. I'm able to teach the youth about these things. And I know that's a very niche problem that I talked about. You could easily be watching this video and be like, I genuinely cannot relate at all. But I do know there is a chance that somebody watching this greatly relates to what I just talked about. And there's still a chance that that person is still watching this video right now. So I just want to tell you, man, First of all, I appreciate you listening to my story. Second of all, don't give up. Treat yourself like your best friend. Always be there for yourself no matter what. Develop some cockiness within yourself. Be selfish out there just a little bit, because you got to understand you are on this side of the frequency of actually destroying and self-sabotaging your career. And over here is like the 10 out of 10 cocky, like, full of himself guy. You're all the way down here. You need a little bit more of this to start getting back towards the middle. So please start treating yourself better, okay? Always be there for yourself. And remember to stand out and don't settle.